Are you the one whose own family doesn't believe in you? The people who were supposed to support you are the ones making you feel small. Every time you try, there is someone at home ready with a comment, a taunt, a comparison, a reminder of everything you haven't achieved yet. And the worst part is, after hearing it long enough, you started to wonder if they were right. That is not weakness. That is what happens when the noise gets inside. And once it gets inside, it stops being their voice. It becomes yours. You are not lazy. Let me say that again, because you need to hear it. You are not lazy. You are not delusional. You are not chasing something foolish. You are someone who is genuinely trying, quietly, consistently, while carrying the weight of everyone's disbelief on your back. And that weight, most people don't talk about it. Because it doesn't look like a wound. It doesn't show up on the outside. You wake up every day, you go through your routine, you smile when you answer when someone calls, but inside, you are exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Because it is not the work that is draining you. It is the environment. It is coming home to people who look at you like your dreams are a phase, like you will eventually grow out of it. Like one day you will finally be realistic and join everyone else who stopped trying, and they don't always say it with cruelty. Sometimes it comes wrapped in concern. I just don't want you to get hurt. I'm saying this because I love you. Be practical. This is not for people like us. And that last one, that one cuts the deepest. People like us. As if there is a ceiling built for your family, and you are supposed to live under it and be grateful for the shade. You sit at the dinner table. Someone asks how things are going, and before you even open your mouth, you already know how the conversation will end. A skeptical look, a heavy silence, or worse, a comparison. Look at your cousin. He has a stable job. He is settled. He is smart. Why can't you be more like him? And you don't say anything, because what is the point? They have already decided who you are, and they decided a long time ago. This is not a small thing. I want you to understand this clearly. Living inside a home where your dreams are not safe, where your ambition is treated like arrogance, where your belief in yourself is seen as delusion, that is one of the hardest psychological environments a human being can exist in. Because human beings are wired for belonging. We are wired to need our people, not strangers, not followers online. Our people. The ones we grew up with, the ones whose opinion, whether we admit it or not, still carries weight. And when those people doubt you, something shifts. Not overnight, not in one conversation, but slowly, over months, over years. Every small comment builds on the last one. Every skeptical look stacks on top of the previous one, and you keep going, you keep trying, but the foundation underneath you starts to feel less solid, because you are human, not a machine, not someone who operates outside of emotion. You feel things, and hearing the people closest to you question your worth, question your direction, question whether you are capable, that leaves a mark. Even if you never say it out loud, even if you tell yourself it doesn't affect you, it does. And then there are the ones who laugh, not openly. Just a small smile at the corner of their mouth when you talk about where you're going. The ones who nod, but their eyes are already somewhere else. The ones who share your news with others not to celebrate you, but to let people know you are still at it, still trying, still haven't figured it out yet. And in those moments, something inside you shrinks, not because they are powerful, but because you are tired, and tired people are vulnerable, and vulnerable people start to listen to voices they would have ignored when they were strong. You have been trying for a long time. Maybe not by the world's standards, but by yours. You know how many times you have started over. You know how many times you have sat with yourself at night and convinced yourself to keep going. You know the mornings you got up when everything inside you said stay down, and still there is someone ready to remind you of everything you have not yet become, not acknowledging how far you have come, not seeing the version of you that shows up every day despite everything, just pointing at the gap between where you are and where you said you would be. I want to say something to you directly. The fact that you are still here, still trying, still listening to something like this, that is not weakness. That is not desperation. That is evidence of something inside you that has not broken, even if it feels like it has, even if you can barely feel it right now. It is still there. Because broken people stop. Broken people give up, quietly, and start pretending they never wanted it. You haven't done that. You are still in it, still carrying something inside you that refuses to let go of what you know is possible. That is not delusion. That is vision. And vision is always uncomfortable. To the people who lost theirs, the people around you, the ones making comments, the ones comparing, the ones telling you to be realistic, they are not your enemies. They are people who made peace with limitation and genuinely cannot understand why you won't do the same. They look at you and feel unsettled, not because you are failing, but because you are still trying. And you're continued. Effort is a quiet reminder of the dreams they buried, so they push back, not out of hatred, out of discomfort. Because the easiest way to feel okay about the life you settled for is to convince everyone around you to settle too. You are not crazy. You are not too much. You are not out of touch with reality. You are someone who is still in contact with a version of yourself that most people abandoned in their 20s. And that is not a problem. That is a gift, even if it doesn't feel like one right now. Because right now, it feels like a burden. Right now, it feels like everyone else got a map, and you are navigating blind. Right now, it feels like the only person still betting on you is you. And even you lately have been a little uncertain about that bet. I know, I see it. And I want you to know that uncertainty is not a sign that they are right. It is a sign that you are human. It is a sign that you have been carrying this alone for too long. But there is something happening beneath all of this. Something important. Something you need to understand before you can move forward. Because the outside noise, as painful as it is not actually the real problem. The real problem is what happens when that noise moves inside, when it stops being something you hear and becomes something you believe. That is where we are going next. There is a moment, a specific moment, that most people never notice when it happens, because it happens quietly, without announcement, without drama. It is the moment when their voice becomes your voice. You stop needing them to say it, because you are already saying it. In the morning when you look in the mirror, in the night when you lie awake, in the small quiet seconds between one thought and the next, their words have moved in, and they have made themselves comfortable. This is the most dangerous shift that can happen to someone who is still trying. Not failure, not rejection, not even the people themselves. The most dangerous thing is when the outside doubt becomes inside identity, because when someone outside doubts you, you can distance yourself from them. You can leave the room. You can stop answering the calls. You can build walls. But when the doubt is inside you, there is nowhere to go. You carry it into every room. You carry it into every attempt. You carry it into every moment when something good is about to happen, and something in you whispers, "This won't last. You don't deserve this. Who do you think you are?" And the terrifying part is, you don't even recognize it as their voice anymore. It feels like yours. It feels like logic. It feels like self-awareness, like you are finally being honest with yourself after all this time. But it is not honesty. It is contamination. Think about how it happened. It did not happen in one conversation. Nobody sat you down and said, "You are not enough," and you believed it immediately. It was slower than that. It was quieter than that. It was a comment at dinner that stayed with you longer than it should have. It was a look someone gave you when you shared your plans. It was the silence that followed when you said what you wanted your life to look like, and each time, you processed it. You moved on. You told yourself it didn't matter. But something small stayed behind. A seed, invisible. And then the next comment came and watered it, and the next comparison came and watered it again. Until one day, without realizing it, you started finishing their sentences before they could. Someone asks how your work is going, and before they say a word, you already feel the need to apologize, to minimize. To say it's going okay, I guess, still figuring things out, nothing major yet. Not because you failed, but because their voice inside you already told you that your progress is not worth presenting, that it won't be received well. That you should make yourself smaller before they make you feel small. That is not you protecting yourself. That is their doubt wearing your face, and here is what makes it worse. The people who planted those seeds are not even thinking about you right now. They have moved on. They are watching television. They are sleeping. They are living their lives completely unaware that their words are still running in a loop inside your head. You are the one keeping it going, not out of weakness, but because the mind does what it is trained to do. And yours was trained slowly, quietly, without your permission, to doubt itself. This is what repeated exposure does. This is not a character flaw. This is psychology. When the same message reaches you from the people closest to you over and over, your mind begins to accept it as truth. Not because it is true, but because the mind is always looking for patterns. And when the pattern says, the people who know you best do not believe in you, the mind draws a conclusion. Maybe there is a reason for that. And from that conclusion, a new identity begins to form. Quietly, without your knowledge. You start to procrastinate more, not because you are lazy, but because deep inside, a part of you has started to believe that the effort will not lead anywhere, and the mind does not like to waste energy on what it believes is pointless. You start to shrink in rooms, not because you have nothing to offer, but because a voice inside you keeps suggesting that your presence is too much, that your ideas are half-formed, that the people in the room will eventually see through you. You start to self-sabotage. And you don't even call it that. You call it being realistic. You call it protecting yourself. You call it finally growing up and understanding how the world works. But it is not wisdom. It is the finished product of years of other people's doubt being absorbed into your own self-concept. And once it is in the self-concept, it stops being a thought you have. It becomes a truth you live from. There is a difference between thinking you might fail and believing you are someone who fails. The first is a thought. Thoughts pass. The second is an identity. And identity does not pass easily. Identity shapes every decision, every attempt, every moment when an opportunity appears and something in you hesitates. That hesitation is not instinct. That hesitation is the accumulated weight of every voice that told you no. Now living inside you. Now speaking in first person. And the cruelest part of all of this is the timing, because this shift happens precisely when you need yourself the most. When you are in the middle of building something, when you are in the phase that requires the most belief, the most consistency, the most willingness to keep going without visible proof. That is exactly when the inner doubt becomes loudest. That is exactly when you need a foundation of identity, and instead you find a floor full of cracks. And so you slow down, not because the path closed, but because something inside you is no longer sure you are the person meant to walk it. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because this is important. You did not arrive at self-doubt through failure. You arrived at self-doubt through environment, through repeated exposure to people who could not see you clearly, and what has been absorbed can be released, what was installed can be uninstalled, but first you have to see it clearly. You have to look at that inner voice, the one that sounds like you, the one that feels like honesty, and recognize it for what it is. It is not your truth. It is their ceiling. And you walked under it long enough that you started to think it was the sky. It is not the sky. It was never the sky. And that voice, the one telling you to shrink, the one questioning every move, the one that shows up right before you try something, that voice is not protecting you. It is not wise, it is not realistic. It is borrowed doubt, and it has been living in you rent-free for far too long. You are going to take it back. Not with affirmations, not with forced positivity, not by pretending the doubt was never there, but by understanding something so clearly, so deeply, that the doubt simply loses its grip. Because once you see where it came from, once you trace it back to its source, once you recognize that it was never yours to begin with, something shifts, not dramatically, not all at once, but something underneath you starts to firm up, and that is where we are going. That is what comes next. The shift that does not require anyone's permission. The return to the version of you that existed before their voices got inside, the you that believed quietly. Certainly, without needing proof, that version of you is not gone. It was never gone. It was just buried under their words, under your own repetition of their words. But it is still there, and it is waiting. There is something you need to understand, not feel, not believe through effort, actually understand, at the level where it changes something permanent. Their doubt is not data. Read that again. Their doubt is not data. It is not evidence. It is not research. It is not an accurate measurement of what you are capable of. It is an opinion, formed by people who are looking at you through the lens of their own limitations. When someone tells you that you cannot do something, they are not reporting a fact. They are revealing a ceiling, their ceiling, the height they stopped at, the place where they decided enough was enough. And they are projecting that ceiling onto you because the mind finds comfort in company. Limited people do not like to be surrounded by unlimited thinking. It makes them uncomfortable. It reminds them of the choices they made, the dreams they let go of quietly so they could fit in, so they could be realistic, so they could stop feeling the pain of wanting something they were afraid to pursue. And then you came along. Still wanting, still moving, still refusing to let go, and your refusal to settle is a mirror they did not ask for. So they say what they say, not to destroy you, but to feel less alone in their own resignation. You need to stop taking it personally. Not because it did not hurt, it did. Not because their words had no impact, they had too much. But because understanding why someone doubts you completely changes what their doubt means. It means nothing about your future. It means everything about their past. And here is the other thing. The people who doubt you the most are almost always people who never tried what you are trying. Think about that. The loudest opinions about your journey belong to people who are not on it. People who have never built anything, never risked anything, never sat in the uncertainty of pursuing something real, are the first to tell you the statistics of failure. They speak about the odds as if they studied them. They speak about being realistic as if reality is fixed, as if the life you can live has already been decided and your job is just to accept the assignment. But reality is not fixed. Reality is responsive, and it responds to the person you become on the inside before it shows anything on the outside. This is not mysticism. This is how every person who built something real actually built it. They decided first, they became certain first, and then the outside started to move. Not the other way around. The outside world does not give you certainty, and then you believe first, and then the outside world has no choice but to rearrange. But you cannot believe if you are borrowing someone else's doubt and calling it your own thinking. So this is the shift. This is the real work, not motivation, not telling yourself you are great until you feel something, the actual work. You take back your inner voice. You look at every thought that shrinks you, and you ask one simple question. Where did this come from? Not to analyze it endlessly, not to go into your past and relive every conversation, just enough to recognize. This thought is not mine. This doubt does not belong to me. This ceiling was built by someone else, and I have been living under it as if I had no choice. And once you see that, once you really see it, you stop arguing with the doubt. Because you do not argue with something that does not belong to you. You return it. You do not fight it. You do not try to overpower it. You simply recognize its origin and you stop feeding it. Because here is what happens when you fight the doubt. You give it energy. You give it a conversation. You sit in your mind going back and forth. Maybe they are right. Maybe they are wrong. What if I fail? What if I succeed? And the whole time you are still inside the doubt's world. Still on its territory, still playing its game. The shift is not fighting. The shift is seeing clearly enough that the doubt simply has nothing to hold on to. You become a different person. not a person who overcame doubt, a person for whom that doubt was never relevant to begin with. Because here is the deepest truth in all of this. You do not need their belief. You never needed it. The belief that changes your life is not the belief of your family, not the approval of the people at the dinner table, not a single person who has never seen the inside of your vision deciding that your vision is valid. The only belief that matters is the one you carry when no one is watching, the one that exists in the quiet moments before you fall asleep, the one that whispers, "I know where I am going, even when I cannot see the road yet." That belief is yours. It was always yours, and it does not require permission. It does not require proof. It does not require a single person in your entire life to stand up and say, "Yes, I believe in you," before you are allowed to believe in yourself. The version of you that makes it is not the version that finally convinced everyone to believe. It is the version that stopped needing to. Think about the people you admire most, not the ones who were handed everything, the ones who built something real. Almost every single one of them has a chapter in their story where the people closest to them did not believe, where the environment said no and something inside them said anyway, that quiet, certain, unmovable anyway. That is what you are building right now, not a life that proves them wrong, because the moment your goal becomes proving them wrong, they win. They are still at the center of your motivation. You are still living for their reaction. You are not building this for them. You are building this because something inside you knows who you are meant to become, and that knowing does not need an audience. So let them doubt, let them compare, let them sit at their tables and discuss the probability of your failure. You do not need to attend that conversation, not in real life and not inside your own head, because here is what is true. The life you are building does not need to be defended. It needs to be lived, and living it means making a decision today, not a declaration, not a dramatic announcement, a quiet, internal decision. That you are done apologizing for the size of what you want, that you are done making yourself smaller so other people feel comfortable, that you are done waiting for a permission that was never theirs to give. You are allowed to want what you want. You are allowed to pursue it without explanation. You are allowed to be in the middle of building something and not have the finished product to show anyone yet. Progress does not always look like progress from the outside. Sometimes it looks like nothing. Sometimes it looks like you are still in the same place. But something underground is shifting. Something in you is being built that cannot be seen yet. And the people watching from outside do not have access to what is happening inside you. Only you know what is happening inside you. Only you know how far you have come in ways that cannot be measured. Only you know what it cost you to still be here. Still trying, still believing, even if only barely, even if only in your quietest moments, that this is real, that you are real, that what you are reaching for is not too far. Hold on to that, not desperately, not with clenched fists and white knuckles. Hold on to it the way you hold something you know belongs to you. Calmly, certainly, with the quiet confidence of someone who has already decided. Because that is who you are now, not someone who is waiting to be believed in, someone who has decided that their own belief is enough. The war outside will continue. People will say what they say, comparisons will come, comments will come, and they will land differently now. Not because they stopped, but because you changed, because you are no longer the person who needs the outside to be quiet before the inside can be still. You carry your stillness with you now. You carry your certainty, your direction, your unshakable, quiet, deeply rooted sense of who you are becoming. And no voice, from outside or inside, has the authority to take that from you. Not anymore. You are not done. You are not behind. You are not what they said. You are exactly where someone like you needs to be right before everything changes. Stay there. Stay certain. Stay quiet. Stay building.